I think one of the most misunderstood aspects of gardening is your hardiness zone. I'm here in Colorado. My garden is in zone 5B. It's just below freezing right now. It's a sunny day. You can see behind me there's a fresh layer of snow that fell overnight. It probably wouldn't surprise you if I were to say that this snow and the temperature today has no bearing on my summer vegetable garden. Well, would it surprise you if I also said your hardiness zone really has no bearing on your summer vegetable garden as well? Join me today as I discuss hardiness zones and your vegetable garden. Hi, I'm Gardener Scott, and this is one of my weather stations. I actually have two in my garden. I'm a bit of a weather geek. I track things like temperature and snow and wind to get an idea of what's happening in my garden, because it doesn't always match exactly with what the National Weather Service forecasts. And I have a pretty good supply of data over the years. This year, earlier this month in January, I measured 3 very cold days. Overnight on the first day was minus 12 degrees Fahrenheit. On the second day overnight, it was minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And on the third day, it was minus 11 Fahrenheit. What makes those temperatures so important is that they literally define my Zone 5B garden. Zone 5B has an average lowest winter temperature between minus 10 and minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. And earlier this month, I had 3 days that fell into that zone. For the future, as the USDA collects the meteorological data, my temperature of minus 12 is probably going to be the coldest temperature that I have this winter, exactly in the middle of my USDA Plant Hardiness Zone 5B. My vegetable garden is underneath the snow right now. And this is great because when the snow melts, it's going to add moisture to my soil, which will really help the soil life when temperatures do begin to warm up. But I don't have any peppers growing, don't have any tomatoes or squash because I can't grow during the winter. It's just too cold. But I can grow all those plants in the summer, regardless of my hardiness zone. And so, for comparative purposes, I asked my friend Eli from In the Garden with Eli and Kate to let me know what conditions are like right now in January for her in Scotland.
Welcome to sunny Scotland. Not quite. I have to say, I'm so sorry, Scott. I wanted to get you the most amazing wintry scene clip. You know, maybe like lovely frosty garden or maybe even snow. But yeah, no, that's not how it works here. Winter for us, as you can see, is a lot greener and milder than you get. Rather than snowy and lovely like that, we get wet, we get a lot of rain. As you can see, things are wet, things are just generally always wet here. But we don't get absolute heavy deluges of rain. We just get it often. So, we do get heavy rain, not flood type rain all the time, but we do get quite often drizzle, we call it. It's just, it's enough to just make the day unpleasant. Temperature wise, it's very different from you. Very different, as you can tell, as I'm out here, no gloves and anything on. So, in fact, I've got some notes, hang on. Right, I actually went and had to dig through all of my weather data for you because, I'm a bit of a weather geek. And I have to admit, I was actually really shocked. I think you remember the extremes, the worst bits of the weather. So I remember the days when it was super, super cold. And I remember that as being, it was always like that. But looking at my weather data, I'm not ever allowed to complain about it being cold ever again. So to give you an idea, we're currently in January. So far this month, we've had highs of almost 9 degrees Celsius, and our lowest has been minus 2.2 Celsius. And the thing is, looking back, I've kind of gone back all the way to 2019, and the coldest we have ever had in January is minus 5 Celsius. Now, I've always thought February was our coldest month, and I've said that so many times, but again, looking at the data, actually it's not. We did have one year, 2021, we did get down to minus 9.1 C. On average though, we're looking at about minus 2 as our coldest temperature in February. So yes, so February's nowhere near as cold as I thought. Now, it's colder in the darker, earlier months of winter, so I looked at November and December for you. And again, December, minus 11 in 2021, that was our coldest. The last couple of years, it's been minus 8, minus 6 this year. So yeah, so that's, December is definitely our coldest month. It's nowhere near as cold here as you get it, and that's probably why you always watch our videos and you see lots of green growing plants. It's why you've seen me actually growing and harvesting plants over winter, as long as they're hardy. That's Scotland in winter. So yay, we have greenery and it's not overly cold, but it's not very pretty either. Anyway, stuff to do. Enjoy your snow.
And so when we look between our two gardens, I'm in zone 5B and Eli is in the equivalent of zone 9B. Almost 40 degrees Fahrenheit warmer during the winter than I am in Colorado. In the United States, that's like living in Florida or Texas or Arizona or Southern California. All areas that we think of as warm regions. But in Scotland, winter is cold and drizzly, but it doesn't get the severe cold that I get here in Colorado. You may have seen the videos that I did with Eli and Kate last year. We grew the exact same varieties of tomatoes in our summer vegetable garden. I grew the tomatoes here in Colorado, they grew the tomatoes in Scotland, and we had great success with our plants and our harvests. During the summer months, what happens in winter, whether it's zone 5B or 9B, really doesn't matter. I get asked questions all the time about hardiness zones and when to start a vegetable garden. Just yesterday, I had a question from a viewer that said, I'm in zone 4. When should I start my tomatoes? Well, the whole point of this video today is to say there is no correlation to the zone you're in and when you should start your seeds indoors or when you should put your plants into the garden. Being in zone 5B means that I have hit those very specific low temperatures on average during the winter. And zone 4 is even colder. They're going to get temperatures as low as minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow, that is a single snapshot of your gardening year, just the coldest point in winter. What's more important to understand is your average last frost date. Not the coldest temperatures that define your hardiness zone, but when is it going to be warm enough to actually put your plants and your seeds outside? One of the reasons I asked Eli to share her data with us is to show you that when you track what's happening in your garden, it really gives you a good appreciation for what's happening right now. And it gives you a good understanding of what you can grow and probably when you should be starting those plants. Now, because it doesn't get so dramatically cold in Scotland, you can see she has a beautiful green lawn in the middle of winter, and she actually has some plants started in the greenhouse. But that cold, drizzly, consistent climate of Scotland also means she still has the threat of freezing conditions. Would it surprise you to find out that I'm standing here in my snow-covered garden and she's standing in her green garden, but we have the same last frost date? Both of us have the possibility of freezes into the middle of May. So she doesn't get her vegetable garden started with those warm season plants outside until the end of May or the beginning of June, just like I'm doing here in cold, frozen Colorado. It has nothing to do with our hardiness zones. It has nothing to do with whether there's snow on the ground or whether there's grass on the ground. It's all about whether the plants we put in our garden will survive if another cold snap hits at any time of year. And when those plants finally make it outside into my garden, it's not because I live in Colorado Zone 5B or that those plants may have been hardened off in my greenhouse at Zone 7B. No, it's because it's the right time to put those plants outside. If you look at the seed packets of almost everything you use, they usually reference the last frost date as to when to sow the seeds indoors, sow the seeds outdoors, or even to take those plants we started inside and then put outside after the last frost date. That's really the most important consideration when you're looking at your vegetable garden and when it's going to start. So do your planning based on the last frost date that hits in spring, not the hardiness zone that you live in. And you should have a much better understanding of why the plants go outside and when they go outside so that you have the best success. I'm Gardener Scott. Enjoy gardening.